What is up? It's your boy Gabe, and let's get right into the video.
Here we go.
So obviously the biggest storyline heading into this NBA season is the one out in Philadelphia involving Ben Simmons and the Philadelphia 76ers, where Ben Simmons does not appear to be returning anytime soon, if at all. According to reports, Ben is still yet to communicate with the team, despite their many now somewhat desperate attempts to bring him back. Many people thought that the situation would have already been resolved by now, or at least that Ben Simmons would have been traded during this summer or before this NBA season. I did not, but that's neither here nor there.
I'm here to tell you right now, we don't care.
Let me tell you
We don't care.
Regardless, Ben, Rich Paul, and his team have made it clear that Ben Simmons does not plan on returning to the 76ers, despite the somewhat lofty financial implications that are on the way. Now, I'm not sure about all the details, but I believe the 76ers can end up finding Ben up to $1.2 or $3 million just before the season even starts. Anything after that gets a little more serious, and eventually the NBA would have to get involved. At this point, I think it's safe for us to expect the situation to carry well on into the NBA season. Maybe not, we'll see. But the Ben Simmons side of things is actually not what I wanted to focus on in this video. I want to look more at the side of the 76ers going forward. So for a few reasons, the 76ers are in no rush to trade Ben Simmons. One, they can't afford to get lowballed. Regardless what you may think about Ben, he's a solid asset, and they need to get back good value for him. Unfortunately, Ben sitting out is not helping that at all. The second is that he's under a major contract. Ben is actually going into the first year of a brand new deal that he signed a while back. So really, if Philly doesn't want him to, Ben Simmons isn't going anywhere anytime soon. But the third reason is the one that I really want to get into. There's a belief or a narrative that the 76ers will be fine short-term without Ben Simmons. And what I mean by short-term is that they could stay afloat or stay alive in the Eastern Conference during the regular season without Ben. Even Philly believes that themselves, according to multiple reports.
They can compete in the regular season without Ben. Joel Embiid plus that roster is still good enough to be the third best team in the East.
I'm not so sure I agree with that at all, actually. Now, of course, the 76ers probably wouldn't be like a 1 seed or a 2 seed. I think they would even admit that themselves. But I think there's a chance the 76ers could be in some real trouble in the Eastern Conference without Ben Simmons. Let's take a look at the East. So we'll start from the top. With or without Ben, I think most people would agree that the Brooklyn Nets and the Milwaukee Bucks are the two favorites coming out of the Eastern Conference. But of course, in this scenario, we're talking without Ben. So I think those are locks. Let's go next. The Atlanta Hawks just beat the Philadelphia 76ers in a 7-game series with Ben Simmons on the floor. Now, I know you could say, well, Ben Simmons hurt them in that series. Ben Simmons did one of the best jobs, if not the best job, on Trae Young than anybody in the entire NBA playoffs. So I'm going to go ahead and say it. You may disagree, but I'll say the Atlanta Hawks as constructed are better than the 76ers without Ben Simmons. Next, we'll go on to the Boston Celtics. One thing has remained true in Joel Embiid's tenure as a Philadelphia 76er. The Boston Celtics have usually had their number. Even Joel said it himself.
Team of like a rival of yours?
Man, JJ mentioned it earlier. This is not a rivalry. I don't know our record against them, but it's pretty bad. They always kick our ass, so this is not a rivalry.
Now you subtract Ben Simmons, and you add another year of development for Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown. Who would you say is better? I personally would also add the Celtics to that list. Without Ben Simmons, I think the Celtics are a better team than the 76ers. Let's move on. The Miami Heat. Honestly, and this is all just me personally, so if you disagree, that's fair. If you took last year's Miami Heat versus last year's 76ers and you subtracted Ben Simmons, I would say the Miami Heat were a better team. Now factor that with the fact that the Miami Heat just added Kyle Lowry to their roster. The new Miami Heat versus this year's Philadelphia 76ers with no Ben Simmons, I would also say the Miami Heat are a better team than the 76ers. So let's pause right there. We've got the Brooklyn Nets, the Milwaukee Bucks, the Boston Celtics, the Miami Heat, and the Atlanta Hawks. That's a 6 seed. So let's look at some more teams. You've got the New York Knicks, who made the playoffs last year. And one thing about the Knicks under Thibodeau, they're going to play hard. Now, I don't actually believe that they're a better team than the 76ers without Ben Simmons. I think the 76ers with no Ben Simmons are still a slightly better team than the New York Knicks. But even that one's a close one. Let's go another one. The Charlotte Hornets. LaMelo Ball, Terry Rozier, Gordon Hayward, and company are only going to be better than they were last year, assuming health. they're another team that I would also still say the 76ers without Ben Simmons are probably better. They're definitely a threat. It's not an easy win. And then there's the Indiana Pacers, who've consistently been one of the most average teams in the league for the last 2, 3, 4 decades. So I think it's also fair and safe to assume they'll be somewhere around there in that 7, 8, 9 range. So let's take a step back now and look at it. I named the Bucks, Nets, Hawks, Celtics, and Heat all as teams that could be better than the 76ers this season. So Sixers at 6, with teams like the Knicks, Hornets, and Pacers potentially right there on their heels. Now where things get interesting is right here. For me, all of that I just laid out right there is assuming that Joel Embiid stays healthy for the entire, or at least almost the entire NBA season. Which I hope for. Personally, Joel Embiid is one of my favorite players in the league. But based on what we know, that's not safe to assume. So now, with no Ben Simmons, and assuming they don't make a trade involving him soon, the 76ers become potentially a team on the brink of a play-in game. Which I don't know if I would exactly call that staying afloat or being okay. Especially considering Joel Embiid in his prime now, and if that was the case, you're looking at the potential of almost wasting one of his seasons. Now no, I'm not predicting that the 76ers will miss next year's NBA playoffs. I'm just stating that I simply believe that they may be in more trouble than they're aware of. Or who knows, maybe they are aware of it. Regardless, it'll be interesting to see how this unfolds. Ben Simmons, the 76ers, the entire situation. So if you like this video, make sure to check me out. We'll have a lot of content coming up soon. But yeah, see you next time.